Hello, hello, hello. It's the Quiet Broad Abroad. Let me adjust. Oops. Let me figure that out here. Let's come this way. I'll bring you closer. Hey guys, I've got some tea here. You'll see me looking down because my notes are going to be here. Hey. So this is filmed live. Get a cup of tea yourself. I've got chamomile. I don't know if you can, oh, you can't see it into the little strainer. I know I look silly in this. Okay, I'm looking at myself on the laptop. I have to remember to look here where you guys are. Welcome, welcome, welcome again. Today, what are we going to talk about? Let's see. I thought I would do like a Q&A, okay, for you guys. And so what I pulled up as you get your tea, okay, get some honey, get some sugar if you want. And what I thought I would talk about is either a set of questions from Psychology Today about moving abroad or from Forbes. And I can't quite make up my mind. I think there's some overlap in the questions. So I think being me, being a creative, if you're new to my channel, my name's Viv, and I just started this channel. And so I'll just be doing some really casual lives and be a way for you to get to know me. And also, please do put your questions below because it'd be great to have your own, your personal questions. You know what I mean? Like your actual questions. I also went to Reddit. Okay. So I went to Reddit. It can be a little sketchy, but also can be like the alleys of the internet, you can really get some good, like honest stuff there because it is, it is, you don't have to like say who you are or anything. I found a question from 6 years ago and I'm thinking about if I'll answer that. So again, let's settle in. Adult-ish. I don't know if you can read that. Let me get my tea. And so, yes, if you're able to watch this live with me, all right, then please in the chat on the side, you should be able to, let me check it. You should be able to put your questions if you happen to be here live. But again, it's a small channel, so most folks are going to catch it later because they don't have a regular time that I'm going live. All right. So yes, and I also know I look funny, but it's cozy. We're calling it cozy abroad. Maybe that's a sub niche. Let's look at our first question. And I think this is a really important one. And this, hold on, from Psychology Today, this was the question that was already in my mind before I went on the internet looking for like, what are move abroad questions? The first question, okay, from Psychology Today, and I'll put the link below to the article. It's 5 questions to ask yourself about moving abroad. The first question is on the category of personality and relationships, all right? Is my personality, am I suited to living abroad? Okay. And I'm like, that is the basic question. It's like I said, I was thinking about this earlier. It just popped into my head. Am I like, what's something someone needs to think about? And so I would say, I'll read you a little bit of what they say. But to that question, I think they're talking about being extroverted versus introverted. I don't know if it's that so much as, because I absolutely think an introvert like myself can thrive moving abroad, okay, or living abroad. And I'm always speaking about short term, like 3 to 6 months, or longer term, okay, depending what you decide. I think that an introvert in some ways might actually have an easier time moving abroad. I say that because there's actually a couple of people I watch on YouTube. They've been abroad for years, so this is not like fly by night folks. And almost all of them say they're introverts. So they're YouTubers because when you're doing YouTube, you're literally sitting in a room by yourself talking to a camera, as I'm doing right now. And so one of them that I'm thinking of in particular, she talks about she travels to different countries. She shows you, she goes to these different countries, but she says, she's not like a big, she'll go see sites, but because she likes being at home, even when she's traveling, she stays in a lot. And I thought that was really weird. I did. And then I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. That sounds like me. You know, so um, I think that an introvert, don't count yourself out in terms of being able to move abroad because, again, an introvert often has a very rich inner life, right? And very, they have their own world going on within them. Maybe they read, I have a friend who's an introvert who's really big on writing like fiction, and reading fiction and writing her own, like she could spend hours a day doing that. So I actually think being an introvert might make it easier for you to move abroad. Okay, let's see what Psychology Today says. They're asking, are you an adventurous person? Now, I think you can be an introvert and still be open to new experiences. The introversion just means you need time to recover by yourself in your cozy, like pink cow onesie, like I'm doing, right? With a cup of tea. It doesn't mean that you may not be open to new things. So they say, um, one of their questions under this category is, could what is currently occurring in my home country be affecting my well-being and or mental health? So that's a question to ask yourself if you are thinking about moving abroad. And I suspect many of you would have, right? An additional question to ask oneself is, would the country or countries to which I'm considering moving be a good fit for my personality? I think that's also really important. So maybe we can talk about that. So let me check if there are any questions. As I said, new channel. I don't know how many folks are going to watch this. And I thank those of you who do, get a chance to watch this in the replay. All right. So let me just see what time it is as well. Okay. So of course, so first you have to ask yourself, I mean, are you someone who's like really, really close to your family? And, you talk to your sister every day and you talk to your mom and your little nieces and nephews are very important to you. I feel like if you're super, super embedded with your family and close contact with them, and say maybe they even live close to you. Now, in the US, as many of you know, that's not a lot of times that's not the case. You may, of course, love, your family, but they may live out west and you're in the Midwest or you're in the East Coast. So I think that's to me almost the crux of it. If you are very, very close to family and very, very close friends where it's so crucial for your well-being, I think it would be hard for you to move abroad, especially solo. Okay. And my channel at this point is for women who are trying to make a move abroad solo or slow traveling solo, over 50. Okay. So those are my thoughts on that. As someone, I've taught yoga for many years and I've been a teacher in art for many years. And so I also am very observant, and I think that that might be the crux of it, that almost the deciding factor. On the other balancing point, though, is do you want to be abroad? If Portugal is calling you and you love Portuguese wines, I know that sounds superficial, but you have friends who are Portuguese, maybe that you've met, you really like them, you feel you've been maybe introduced to their family, you feel really good about the culture, you visited Portugal, just as an example, right? So substitute your country. Um, it could be Kenya, right? You have Kenyan friends, you love how social and how warm they are, you've met their family here, maybe you visited. So to me, the main thing, to repeat what the video is about, that you have to ask yourself, and that will determine if you feel happy abroad, is, do you want it? Do you desire to move abroad? Okay. I think that's really like the top, top, top thing. Okay. And then the other things, like I was saying, personality. Are you suited to living abroad? Are you open to new things, right? Because think about it, everything's going to be new, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit later, but the language might be new. Um, the culture, again, depending, if you're from America, where most of my viewers will be from, America, Canada, or the UK, there's a lot of cultural similarity. Of course, there are differences, but there's enough similarity where you're not going to feel like a huge culture shock, I would think. Now, if you go to a Vietnam or a Thailand from the US, you're in a whole different culture. You're going to hear different language around you a lot. So, that also becomes a question is the country a good fit for my personality? I always mention this, not to stereotype, but I've seen this a lot on the internet. I have not been to Northern Europe, for example, but that like the Nordic countries, people are said to be more introverted, but that means that you as a foreigner going in also, their friend groups, they're more set from early childhood. Now that's very different in the US. It doesn't tend to be unless you grow up in a small town and you stay in that small town. There's a certain amount of mobility in the US and a certain amount of allowing people in to your life, right? Because many Americans move so much, especially younger, but even in retirement. For instance, I've lived a lot of my life in New York State, and a lot of New Yorkers, when they retire, they move down to Florida, right? That's very common. The move from New York, right? Retirement, move down to Florida. So I think in America, we tend to be more open to people entering our friend group and to befriending them. That's not necessarily the case in other countries. So you do want to think about, um, is this country not just fit my personality, as they're saying? I think that's important, but you may say, well, I'm an introvert and I actually, oh, I have like a family connection to Sweden or Norway or something. But then, even though you're an introvert, you get there and you think, well, they're introverted, I'm introverted, but you end up feeling really isolated. Okay, so you really have to think those things through. Okay, let me check for questions first. And I am now getting really warm in my onesie. Let's see. So I'm not going to go over those are some first considerations. Personality. Are you suited in general to living abroad? And like I said, an extrovert, they're saying the adjustment may be more difficult for them than for those who are open to new experiences and are extroverted. And like I said, I disagree. An extrovert may move abroad. So yeah, let's discuss this more. So we talked about introverts. An extrovert may move abroad and may have an easier time making friends, but they need more friends, right? So they have to do that to feel happy, right? They need a new social circle. While what I'm saying is an introvert can actually deal with maybe some months of just having like the local market people to chat with, and we can talk about other ways they can have a social life. But I actually have a video on that I think can really help you drop in, that I've used. You can drop into a new location and start to make friends. But so yeah, maybe being extroverted might be more helpful, but I'm not convinced, because again, I think it depends on the culture you're dropping in on. Is it a good fit for your personality? Um, and yeah, an extrovert may basically have higher needs for contact, while an introvert may be better positioned to deal with more alone time, if that makes sense. Okay, guys, I'm actually gonna here take off my onesie because now I'm getting too hot. As I'm talking, my pink cow onesie is gonna come off. Oh my gosh. Okay. And I had to open the door. This is not easy to get out of. I'm trapped. I'm trapped in my onesie. Okay. It's actually not a onesie. It just goes down to like your hips. Okay, my plain. So this is like my top that I did yoga in earlier. So it's all like it's been all stretched out. So let me go on to the next questions in from Psychology Today. Okay. And sorry, I was looking here because here's where I see myself on my laptop, on my Mac. So yeah, think about introversion versus extroversion, but also think about, is the country a good fit? So I think that's more important. For instance, if you know, even as an introvert, that you like a warm culture, you like a culture where people are more open to socializing. So, maybe you're going to look at more Spain um, or Portugal or South America or in Africa. You're going to look at a culture that suits your personality. I think that's really, really important. Okay. What's my reason for moving? I think that's also huge, right? Um, so I talked about the desire. You have a desire to live abroad, but why? Why do you want to move? And the whole saying about the grass is always greener. Um, what is it that you're looking for in your move abroad? Like what do you want? Do you want um, to be able to walk more? Like, for instance, for myself, I really do enjoy walking, and you want to have it built in. And I care very much about health. So if you live, in the past, I've lived way out in the suburbs where you literally cannot walk. It's dangerous. There are not sidewalks. You just can't walk to a mall. I mean, it would be stupid. You'd be on a highway, right? So what is it that you're wanting the lifestyle? Just sit and really write down the lifestyle that you want. Do you want to not own a car, right? And to get rid of those payments. Do you want to be by the beach? I mean, do you really love the beach and find you feel peaceful there? You've always dreamed of living by the beach. You've tried it, maybe a friend or a vacation, and you really loved it. It resets your nervous system. So think about what kind of life you want, right? What are your reasons for moving? And so let's see what they say, okay? They say an important aspect to ponder is whether you might be running from yourself, a relationship, or possibly a difficult or painful past. I think all of those could be happening, right? Um, it could be running from yourself or a difficult relationship or a difficult or painful past. All of that could be woven together. So they're saying, this is Psychology Today, you'll want to think about whether there is a valid and logical reason for the move, such as leaving your current country due to the political or safety situation, or maybe you've been drawn to a particular country for a long time. Okay. For many people, moving abroad may be a logical and valid choice. I take issue with the logical idea because I have another channel where I talk about spiritual topics, especially for women. There's something about the word logical that is not vibing for me. I don't think you need to be able to. Some people like a spreadsheet, and you can certainly use a spreadsheet for moving abroad for certain things, your budget, and many, many things like that. What, health insurance, like who has what's the visa, you can do that. But just saying, is it logical? I don't think that's the way necessarily that all of us, or even the majority of us, would choose. Because logically, for instance, if I were moving abroad, there are certain countries it would logically make sense for me to move to. Given my background in education, or they have a lot of like art support, they have a visa I qualify for. But that doesn't mean, because it's logical, doesn't mean that's what you should do. It might be logical to marry a particular person on paper, right? But it doesn't mean that they're the right person for you. And so in the same way, I think we have to mix logical with the intuitive, with your gut, with your knowing. Like I said, maybe it's logical for me to move to a country like Germany. I've heard great things about Germany. They have a lot of wonderful visas for different people with different skills. They're also very clear about what you have to do. Maybe I'd qualify financially as well, or maybe a country like Panama also qualify. Oh, it's a city, it's clean, cost of living is great, but does that mean because it logically ticks some boxes that it's right for you? I don't think so. I don't think you should just go logically. I think it has to combine logic with feeling. I really think that's important, because I think if you just go with logic, you could end up absolutely in the wrong country. And if you just go with feeling, you could definitely end up in the wrong country for sure. Okay, so write down what is your reason for moving. And even if it is to get away from a relationship, maybe it's a temporary move, maybe it's a sabbatical for 4 months, maybe it's a year where you do live half the year in Vietnam and then half the year you're in the US, and it's for your healing, right? So they say, Psychology Today says about the reasons for moving abroad. Your reason for moving is a very personal question and one that only you can answer for yourself. One adage, yeah, I never knew how to say that. Adage? I think it is adage. Or like one saying I like is, no matter where I run, I'm still there. That's not how it goes. It goes, wherever you go, there you are. And it's a book actually by John Kabat-Zinn, where, yeah, wherever you go, there you are. Okay. They've kind of, I guess they didn't want to be sued. So, if the answer to why you're moving might be that you're running from yourself or from painful relationships, that is not the best reason to move abroad. However, if this is a decision that is well thought out and logical, then the move may be a better option for you. Again, I disagree with them there. I do think, what if you are running away from a painful relationship and you need time to heal? You need time to heal. Again, I keep getting Vietnam. Some of you may be looking at Vietnam, where you can, or Thailand, where you can get massages for relatively low cost compared to the West. You can get a lot of self-care services for low cost, and maybe you need that for your healing, or it's not even need. You realize that would make your healing much better, faster, more enjoyable. I'm looking, this was written by a woman, Dr. Goldsby. But again, I'm just hearing a certain approach she has that may not work for all of us. So I want to know what you think in the comments, okay? I'm going to go close my door because I had opened it because I was getting hot. Again, so when thinking about where to move abroad or if it's even right for you, combine your logic with your feeling. I really believe, and as I said, this channel is mostly aimed at women over 50, over 60. I think we've been told to downplay our intuition too much, and I think that we've lost touch with our intuition. I really think we all have an inner knowing. And if we can tap into that, especially to something they did mention in here, is there a country that you've just always been drawn to? I believe there's a reason you've been drawn to it and that there's some meaning there for you, okay, for you to be there. Let me just check how long I've been live. Okay. All right. It's fine. Let's go on with Psychology Today, or should I switch over to Forbes? Let's switch over to Forbes questions. Okay, they have an article, 6 important questions to ask yourself before you move overseas. Also written by a woman, Kathleen Petticord. Okay, and again, I'll put the links below for this. First question, of course, what do you want your new life to look like? I think that's key. Like I said, write that down. Lifestyle, friendship style. What do you do with your free time? Like, do you, yeah, do you like more lakes and rivers? Do you like it very, very green? Or have you always loved more of a desert type environment, like really sunny and more dry? Use things like that, right? Use things like that to help you decide where you might want to move abroad. Let's talk about this one. This is a big one. And again, this is Forbes, their article on moving abroad and figuring out if it's right for you. What's your move abroad budget? That's a big one. What's your move abroad budget? So instead of asking how much money you need to move overseas, ask yourself how much you currently have. I actually agree with that, and I'm surprised I agree with Forbes on that. And I would actually think they would say the opposite, like, how much money do you need, and do a spreadsheet first, and da da da, and do all your research first. I do actually think it is important to start with how much you have, because likely, at least as I'm recording this, there is some place in the world, especially if you're coming from the U.S., Canada, or the U.K., even our sort of working class income could support you abroad, right? So how much do you have? I think that is a really important question. Now, Forbes says the minimum you'll need to secure a comfortable life in select low-cost havens, I love the language, havens, is 1,000 a month. Now, when was this article written? This is in 2024. Okay. The 6 important questions to ask yourself. This was 2024, and as I'm filming this, we're just entering 2026. They're saying 1,000. I want to know if you agree or not. Do you agree with that? If I told you guys little, how lean my travel budget was, I think a lot of you would be like shocked. And I have this because I thought about sharing this on the channel. I think some of you would say, girl, go home, go home. But they're saying 1,000. And if many of you watch YouTube a lot, like 1,000 was the cutoff for like the last 5 years. People are like, 10 places you can live for under $1,000. That has gotten quieter. There are very few videos now that are still talking about $1,000. But again, this is 2024. They do say, though, with a budget of 2,000 to 4,000 per month, your selection expands exponentially. Absolutely. And that's what I think is so funny when I see people who are like, I don't know if I could afford to live abroad. I have 500,000 saved, and I've still got my house I'm going to sell, and I've got my pension, and I've got this. And I'm like, do you understand that you're in a really high cost country, again, UK, US, Canada, and you think that, they're like, I don't know, is 7,000 a month enough to live on? If that's you, okay, just breathe. Breathe. Again, it might be maybe you have really high needs, really, really like expensive taste. But I think what many Americans, like I said, these 3 countries I'm talking about, don't realize, or you realize the cost of living is high in your country, but unless you're moving to Switzerland, maybe Dubai, there's certain countries, like I said, Switzerland really comes to mind, but maybe Austria, um, Ireland is said to be quite expensive. Or yeah, if you're moving from the US to the UK, it's probably going to be like, oh, that's the same, or Canada and to the UK. So I agree with him. I think 2,000, if you are a more sort of modest living person, to 4,000, which for many Americans, this trifecta of countries that I'm talking to, the folks from, with their retirement, it's probably in between that 2,000 to 4,000 range, okay? And they're saying, and I agree, your selection expands exponentially, okay? And they do say make a spreadsheet, your assets and your liabilities. This is where you want to make a spreadsheet, definitely with your budget. After figuring out your nest egg, they say, you can turn that into your budget for your new life abroad. Absolutely. You may be able to cut out expensive things like a car, right? Like I'm saying, if you go to Southeast Asia, the cost of just transportation there is so inexpensive that you won't want to own a car. And you don't want to drive in their like crazy traffic situation. You don't want to get the international license. If you move to France, maybe you'll just drive once a month or twice a month when you go do some big shopping or you want to see another region or something. So I do think, again, a budget of 2,000 to 4,000. And again, I'm talking solo now, again, to women moving solo. In many places, that is absolutely fine. Now, if you have a really, like I said, higher cost needs, but you can look at Numbeo, I think it is called. Let me just spell it for you. I believe it's Numbeo. They have a really good cost of living comparison, okay? Yes, it's Numbeo, Numbeo.com, all right? And they give you many different statistics. They have all different, it's funny, crime is coming up. They have many different statistics, but cost of living and all you would need to know about different cities. So do check Numbeo out. So yeah, I think that I'm gonna end it here in terms of the questions, but get your budget and then know your budget. And actually the final point then is look at what you qualify for. I think some trifecta countries, Canada, US, UK, might feel they can move anywhere because they're just like, oh yeah, well, I mean, of course they'd want me there. But of course you have to stop and look at what visas are you eligible for, right? Those three countries were often able to be in many places around the world for 3 months as a tourist. Beyond that, you're going to need a visa, or you're going to need like a longer stay permit. And so once you have your budget, and maybe starting with countries that you've loved, that have drawn you in the past, or you have some sort of connection or emotional draw, but then look at, do you qualify financially to be there? Um, Someone I watch in this space was saying that Australia, when she wanted to move there, I think it was either Australia or New Zealand, she was too young for the visa she thought she qualified for. She saw there was an age limit. Yeah, I guess it might have been a retirement. She was just too young to qualify for that, so she had to change her plans. Um, but it's a short list. If Let me know if you want me to kind of go into, because I've done a huge amount of research myself. I can maybe a video about where especially women over 50, Americans primarily, are moving abroad. Because I kind of know them off the top of my head. And then of course you have to do your research. So you do have to find out, do you qualify for a longer term stay? So maybe it's a country that you had ancestors from, but you don't, you know, quite qualify, or the income is too high, and your retirement income might not cover it, or you do a little work online and yeah, it's not meeting what they require. Um, so that's going to be really important. You're going to have to make a list. I'd say make like your top three, but then know what your budget is. And knowing what your budget is, you then can see, you can Google, you could start with ChatGPT. I don't think ChatGPT is always wrong, though I'm moving away from AI, but it can start you off. But yeah, to what I just said, it can be wrong. And so use it maybe as part of your research, but don't make it your sole research, because definitely folks have said well, ChatGPT said, well, the embassy doesn't care what ChatGPT said, right? Um, you don't want to like get to Romania and you find out, oh, ChatGPT was wrong, right? Or get to Costa Rica and they're like, yeah, I don't care what are you talking about? What did the AI say? They don't care. So you think you can use it as part of your research. I have, especially more in the past, and then do your actual research with real people and going to the official websites of the nation, of the country, or lawyers who help you. That's often really good to go to sites where you do your Googles and ask for like legal information about long-term residency in. And often it will be law firms or yeah, like immigration lawyers who help you, and they really do have it. Typically, they have it very up to date. Does that make sense? And typically, it's going to be in English, right? Because that's a lot of their customers, and they will have it set out for you. Like these are the requirements for Italy, or this is the requirement, for France, because that's what they do as their business, and so they really have the facts. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Please, yeah, I just wanted to go live. Again, these are important questions to think about before moving to a new country. It is a huge change. What I'm going to do is put links to both articles below, and I will also put, if you are interested in my, I was going to say my trifecta method, but that's what somebody else on YouTube says. I don't have a trifecta method. It's two things. If you're interested in house sitting to be able to travel even around the US or abroad, I'll put a video up here and you'll see the titles. I know which one will go where. And or if you're interested in how to then combine house sitting, perhaps where you get free lodging in exchange for taking care of a dog or a cat or a bird or fish, and then low-cost Airbnb so you could slow travel and maybe you could do your scouting trips. So I have a separate detailed video on that, and I'll put that here, and I'll put the house sitting ones that are deep dives. Okay, so do check that out, because if you're trying to figure out, I recommend, I'll end the video with this, I recommend traveling a little bit to get your feet wet and perhaps to explore the region, explore different countries. And so my method can really be a part of helping you figure that out. And I do have a masterclass below that is priced very fairly, and it can help you with combining those two methods to be able to travel abroad for 3 to 6 months or more. Okay. I made it especially for women over 50, but it's open to anyone, and links will be below. All right, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. And do ask your questions. If you have questions about moving overseas or slow travel, um, relocation, starting your life anew abroad. And if you also know anybody you think I should interview, I really want to get a diverse, like different countries of the world, women of all backgrounds in here on the channel and do an interview with them about what it's like for them to move abroad. Okay, so if you know anybody that you'd like me to interview, put their name or channel below. Okay, bye for now, guys, and I hope this video served you. Bye.